I have talked about the Black Miss Leadership class on this show before. Al Sharpton is one of those people, right? And Al Sharpton is doing something that he likes to do, which is intervene in political elections when he sees that there's a chance that someone who is further left than the status quo Democratic Party is gaining momentum. And he's doing that now. Wait till you see who he decided to align himself with. Zoran Mondani is running for mayor in New York City. Andrew Cuomo also. Zoran and Andrew Cuomo are the top two contenders right now, if you look at the poll. Now, since that debate and since the endorsement from AOC, Zoran has now leaped in front of Andrew Cuomo. He is now leading in the latest poll, which is exactly what the establishment does not want. Now, I said before, Zoran to me gives me AOC vibes. Like, I feel like he's talking a good game, but I really feel as though if he got in there that he would become more corporate, that he would agree more with the establishment. It's a DSA thing. And I've brought this up before that I feel like DSA type like candidates, they only go but so far. Once they're elected, they tend to, side a little bit more with the establishment and try to play the game a little bit. And we saw that with members of the squad as well. That being said, he's not Andrew Cuomo, right? Like Zoran doesn't have the cases against him for killing people, all those elderly people in the nursing home. Zoran doesn't have a list of women that accused him for sexual harassment. And so it's interesting, Al Sharpton, being a part of the New York community, has decided to insert himself in this particular race, especially now seeing that Zoran has gained that momentum and is ahead of Andrew Cuomo in the Democrat primary race here for mayor. Just to give you a tidbit before we get to Al Sharpton, Bree had a really good point. Holy shit, imagine if Bernie had gone after Biden like this. Listen to this debate between Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mondani.
To Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, the name is Mamdani, Mamdani. You should learn how to say it because we got to get it right. To Mr. Cuomo.
So I think Bree has a really good point here. Imagine if Bernie would have gone after Joe Biden like that when they had the one-on-one debate. Imagine if Bernie would have called out that there is a woman named Tara Reid that has accused you of sexual assault. But that wasn't Bernie's goal. Bernie's goal wasn't really to go after Joe Biden like that. His goal was to help the Democratic Party take the White House back from Donald Trump. That's really what it was about. But he was calling out Andrew Cuomo's, obviously his faulties. Like Cuomo is very corporate, very much corrupt. So one would think that ideally, if you do support civil rights and you've been advocating for civil rights, you would not go after the one candidate that said that Israel should be one state and it should be a secular state, and Palestinians and Israelis should have equal rights under the law, because that is a part of civil rights. But Al Sharpton is doing just that, and he's using identity as the excuse. Shout out to Jason Beeferman for this. Rev Al notes how even though AOC endorsed Zoran Mondani as her number one and Adrian Adams as number two, Zoran endorsed Brad Lander, a white man, as his number two instead of Adrian. Somehow that politics ain't progressive to me. So here's Al Sharpton. There was a meeting recently. He had an event with the National Action Network in Harlem. And This is Al Sharpton playing his role as part of the Black misleadership class. He is there to come in to try to stop any type of progressive policy, etc., any type of energy around that. He's there to come in and shut that down. And the way that he's able to do that is by having that camaraderie with the Black community. So he's speaking to Black people at this event, basically to tell them not to support those types of policies, what would actually benefit the Black community, but to get behind Andrew Cuomo. Because even with the statement here, it is Andrew Cuomo ultimately who Al Sharpton is trying to tell them that they need to get behind and support. I kid you not. And that is very interesting that he used identity. You get it, like, you should have supported Adrian because Adrian is Black, is basically what Al Sharpton is saying. That Zoran's number 2 should have been Adrian because she's Black, not Brad. That's what he's saying. Like, you don't have to have any substance. You ain't really got to have no damn policy. Just because you're Black, that's what it is. But Al Sharpton now had Andrew Cuomo at the National Action Network event in Harlem, New York, in front of the Black community, and basically telling them, this is the guy who's had our side, who's had our back. But when Andrew Cuomo was governor, which was just like 3 years ago, he said the exact opposite. I want you to remind you what Al Sharpton said here when Andrew Cuomo was called out due to that investigation. Listen.
Our 840, as Pix 11 commemorates Harlem Week, we want to highlight the importance of Harlem as the epicenter of social and political movements that really changed the course of history.
One of the people who led many of those movements is Reverend Al Sharpton, and he is joining us this morning. Good morning, Reverend Al.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you.
I tell you what, this man is always working. We see him in the car this morning, so thank you for spending a little time with us as you're traveling to your office. We do want to start with the situation in Albany, though, Reverend. That situation obviously being Governor Andrew Cuomo and the scandal that surrounds him. Do you think he should resign in the wake of the Attorney General's findings?
Well, I think that it is very difficult for me to see how he can continue to govern. You've heard now the Speaker of the New York State Assembly say they're moving forward with some speed around impeachment proceedings. Once you have lost the confidence of the legislature, whether you feel it is right or wrong, you can't govern. And I think that if I were him, I would resign rather than be impeached, would only be the second governor in the history of the state. I think the more important thing is how we move forward and govern during these serious times. I'm already hearing people that are in the political culture start reaching out to me and others saying, what do you think about this candidate or that candidate? No one has said that anyone is running yet, but they're already seeing the post-Cuomo world because there's going to be an election next year. Yeah. So I believe that we cannot lose the people in the midst of all of these scandals.
There's a lot of...
So we could just pause it right there. Okay? Pause it right there. So again, that was Al Sharpton 3 years ago saying that Andrew Cuomo needs to resign because he cannot effectively govern at this point in time. Everybody remember this? Okay. Which made sense, right? Right? Andrew Cuomo had multiple cases of sexual harassment filed against him, different women. He issued a public apology. And like I said before, if you did nothing wrong, what you apologizing for? If you ain't do nothing wrong, what you apologizing for? Then two, on top of that, the nursing home deaths, which he tries to refute till this day, but the evidence shows the contrary, that all those people that died in those nursing homes, because Andrew Cuomo didn't want them to be able to get to the hospital to get the treatment that they needed. So when you have people obviously in a small space and there's an illness, obviously it's going to make its way through that small space. Like, you have to take the people out that are sick and get those people the help that they need, get them treated. Andrew Cuomo was like, no, and then didn't want to take accountability for the nursing home deaths. So if Al Sharpton was saying 3 years ago he cannot effectively govern and that he needed to resign, why is this clown now out here pumping him up during the National Action Network in Harlem. This was just this weekend. I don't know why we can't hear it. Eric, do you know why we can't hear it? I'm sorry, guys. We can't hear. You probably have to log in. I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear the sound on that. Eric says he doesn't know either. Could be Instagram thing. It's probably because you're not logged
National
in.
Action Network in our shop. Bill Clinton was the president. We were fighting against racial profiling, which had been an issue on Highway New Jersey Turnpike. Nobody in the Clinton administration would recognize the march. One cabinet member, HUD Secretary, Andrew Cuomo, came and spoke at that march in 2000, 25 years ago. When we were fighting, Tracy Maitland is here, who's one of the businessmen, people that has been an example in our community. And he has with him his wife, Kim, who taught him everything he knows. And Lauren, who's smarter than both of them, who's his daughter. She writes my speeches, but don't tell nobody. They will tell you that we could not get blacks involved, not at the expense of others, just involvement to compete, make a bid, and show that we could compete at Kennedy Airport in LaGuardia. And when he was governor, he did that, as Greg Meeks said. So we have a long.
So do you guys see Andrew Cuomo sitting right here? So there's Cuomo sitting right there. And he's going to go on to say that they have a long history together.
Relationship. So I cannot, as I said about Adrian, I've not endorsed candidates, but I will tell you the record of what I know and what is important. And we need substantive talk to our community. We are under siege, and we do not need folks that will not address real stuff.
Okay, let me pause here for just a second. That is him kind of wagging his finger towards Zoran, right? We don't need folks that can't address real stuff. Now, do you see the flip there between Al Sharpton 3 years ago when he said he can't effectively govern, and now he's telling you that Andrew Cuomo is there and has been there for the people? Now, he says he cannot endorse, but he is basically telling all the black people, the black community there in Harlem, that you should get behind Andrew Cuomo. That's his way of kind of giving an underhanded endorsement there to endorse Andrew Cuomo. Well, let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Andrew Cuomo is a proud Zionist. A lot of support there for Israel is not something that he hides. He's very vocal about that. And my question that I have is, if Al Sharpton is a champion for civil rights as much as he claims to be, and he really cares about civil rights, then how can you, as a civil rights activist, as someone who supports civil rights, why are you trying to make the case for the candidate that is backing an oppressive state? Why are you trying to make the case for a candidate that is backing a state that has been actively occupying and oppressing people? How would that be any different from you backing, I don't know, someone who supports Jim Crow? You see, this is why I said before, you can't have it both ways. For the black politicians and the black activists and the black pundits like Al Sharpton, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you're for civil rights here for black Americans and equality and all that jazz, but you're backing a supremacist state abroad that is occupying and oppressing people. You cannot have it both ways. And that's why you won't see people like Al Sharpton come on this show. I think Bree reached out to him to try to get him on her show. This is why they don't interact in these spaces, because they know I would ask that question. You can't have it both ways. You can't sit up here and say, and his response will probably be, well, You have to remember that during the civil rights movement, we did have collaboration there with the Jewish community as well. Yeah, that's true. But there's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. You are supporting Zionism. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say you're against oppression here, but you're for oppression abroad. You're against oppression for one group, but you're for it for another group. No. The people who are doing that, like Al Sharpton, are people who still want to be in that club. They got into a club. They want to stay there. They've been making a lot of money, and they know life is a lot easier for them in that sense. So you can't have it both ways. And if you're serious about uplifting the Black community and helping the Black community, then why would you even try to make the case for someone like Andrew Cuomo, knowing that he puts Israel first? That means you're not. These gatekeepers, the Black misleadership class, they are part of the reason why we have not gotten what is owed. They're part of the reason why. And to make it worse, he has a large platform. He's on MSNBC. And I can tell you a lot of younger Black people, we're not following Al Sharpton like that. That's more so some of the older generation, but a lot of younger Black people are not feeling Al because your way of thinking is tired. We have moved beyond that. We see things very differently. Now, to that point, I do want to say something. The numbers do show that Zoran Mondami is not doing well with Black voters. Most Black voters, when polled, are supporting Andrew Cuomo. Now, some of that has to do with name recognition. I would say that's first, right? We really can't help that. I mean, Andrew Cuomo was the governor. He's very well known. He comes from a political family. They know who he is. So Zoran is up against that. But that brings this question. Is he going into Black neighborhoods? Is he speaking to Black communities? Is Zoran's campaign going out and actively speaking to disenfranchised Black communities? Because I want to know why that number is so incredibly low. It should be higher considering the policies that he supports, like freezing the rent, which they say you can't do, which you can do because Mayor de Blasio did it multiple times. So these are some questions, folks, that people need to ask. I don't live in New York. I don't know. I frequent there because it is pretty close to Boston. But these are some questions that need to be asked. How is it that Zoran's numbers with the Black community are not higher, considering the policies that he has? And I ask that because it brings up a question about the DSA type of candidate, because Bernie Sanders ran into this same thing too. Bernie Sanders ran into it with Joe Biden when it came into the Black community. The Black community largely supported Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders. A lot of that had to do with his relationship with Barack Obama, which I would have said, if anything, should have pushed you away from Joe Biden, because Barack Obama didn't help the Black community either. But it's a question that I think that the DSA crowd needs to start to really look into. Why is it that these candidates aren't doing as well with the Black community as the candidates that are not running on those populist messages? I think that's something they need to look into. That's their thing to look into. It's not my thing. I encourage all people to register as independents. I encourage Black people to leave the Democratic Party and register as an independent. That's my push. But the reality is, there is something to be said to the point where Al Sharpton felt the need to jump in because Zoran has taken the lead, and this push towards Andrew Cuomo, knowing you said 3 years ago he wasn't fit to govern, but now he is. I just want people to pay attention. I want people to wake up. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.